Carver County Schools. It is a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon to talk about our Return to Learn plan. The agenda for today is you'll be hearing from first our superintendent, Lisa Sales-Adams, and then a number of our cabinet members as we walk through the different level options for our students and what we're doing to provide both exceptional education and care for the health and safety of our students and staff. Some logistical pieces. So we're going to go through this presentation, after which we will answer as many questions as we can get through. As you may imagine, we've been getting a number of questions through the district email inbox, as well as I've already got a bunch of questions here in the chat in front of me. So we are going to do everything we can to get through as many questions as we can. I want to reassure you that we read them all. We will work to continue to update our frequently asked questions and respond to emails we receive in the inbox. We're working through them as fast as we can, and hopefully we will get to your question. But if we don't know that we're working on an answer for you, please feel free to reach out to the district office or your building principal if you're looking for additional information. Those are both really good resources for you. So we are recording today's presentation and we will be sharing that later this afternoon. So if you know somebody who didn't have a chance to join us, let them know that we'll be sharing it this afternoon on our district social media channels. And again, we're continuing to update those frequently asked questions on our website. It's a great resource if you're looking for more information. So with that, let's get started. It is my extreme pleasure to introduce our superintendent, Lisa Sales-Adams, to get us underway. Superintendent?
Good afternoon, Kaylee. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to our community engagement Zoom call. And thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to spend it with us. It's Friday. You all could be anywhere that you would need it to be, but I'm happy that you're here with us. And we are going to go into detail and provide additional information on our Return to Learn plan. So today, my team will share additional information on our decision-making process, the overview of our modified hybrid model, sample school schedules, health and safety procedures and precautions, instructional expectations, specialized services, transportation, nutrition services, childcare, and much more. Please continue to reach out to us to provide feedback, ask questions, and seek clarifications. As Kaylee mentioned a minute ago, we are reading everybody's email and we're trying to respond as quickly as possible. But more importantly, the questions that you are asking have clarified and allowed our staff to put more information on our website, or also giving our principals information to respond to your specific questions. Our schools have shared additional information, and I think you will be able to look at our website to see how it has transformed and become more detailed since it was launched on Tuesday. I encourage you to really work with your building principal if you have anything in particular that meets your family's needs. But also, before I get started with our presentation, a few side notes. I wanted to let families know that we have actually extended the registration deadline for our online learning academy. So we heard you loud and clear that you need a little more time to get more information. I know that we have specific grade level presentations next week, so elementary, middle, high school. We want you to have as much information that you need to have to make a good decision for you and your family. So it's going to be extended until 10 a.m. on August 19th. So I will say that if you are listening and you have a neighbor or a friend that had that same question, we will have this on our website as well, but we are going to extend the registration window for our online learning academy until next Wednesday on the 19th at 10 a.m. And then we received a lot of questions about why are our high school students starting in a distance learning format. I wanted to assure our families that our high school students will fully transition to a hybrid model on or before October 8th. So just to repeat that, our high school students will transition fully to the hybrid learning model on or before October 8th. We will provide you with an update to ensure that you have enough advance notice to help you and your students prepare for the transition from distance learning to the hybrid model. And you will learn more about our learning models and our schedules in our presentation. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent, Erin Rathke. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. I'm going to begin by sharing around how we made these decisions. So it was necessary that our team took an approach that was collaborative and driven by data. Since last spring, we have done extensive stakeholder feedback collection from our families, teachers, and students. We have individually as a team gone through state and local guidance line by line to make sure we understand and are ready to implement what is needed to safely support learning inside of our buildings. We have worked multiple times with our local health organizations and pulled apart the data to better understand our current local circumstances. In July, our governor rolled out a framework with 5 different scenarios. Right now, our district falls elementary in person and secondary in a hybrid model. The data will change week by week, and it is important that you and us look at the overall numbers and trends when considering how we are going to start the year and how we will move in between each model. Based on all of these components and around our data-informed decision-making process, state guidance to public health data and staffing levels, we have landed in a modified hybrid model. Here are some of the elements. Our K-5 students are going to come back to school in person 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. What that means is 100% of our students will attend school in person. On Wednesday across the district, we will have a full distance learning day. In our middle schools, our 6-8 grade levels, we will be launching a 2-day-a-week hybrid model. We will be splitting the district up into A students and B students. When A students are in the building, B students will be at home distance learning, and then they will switch. And again, Wednesdays will be a full distance learning day. Our 9-12 is starting in a full distance learning model. And when I roll out the schedule, I'll talk more specifically about how we landed on that decision. Some of our highlights that we want to share. We prioritized that we wanted our littlest and youngest learners to be in person as much as we possibly could commit to. We believe that the 4 days a week will help our smallest learners transition. Having a Wednesday day of distance learning will help our littlest learners ensure that they can understand the nuances and the technology needs that they may have if ever we were to pivot into a distance learning model, so that they are prepared and that learning can stay consistent. Developmentally, we know that our in-person learning is really critical for these learners. Public health data supports having these young learners back in school. The one distance learning day, again, will be a learning time for our families and for our students. One of the things that we can ensure is that we will be able to provide deep cleaning on Wednesdays in our elementary schools. I say that, but however, want to highlight that our operations team is working very critically every day that they will be doing deep cleaning to ensure that there is safety measures that are intact for our littlest learners. We want to highlight some of the things that we're thinking about and are part of the state mandate around in-person learning. I want to remind everyone that 100% of our elementary students will be inside of the building. It is not feasible for us to provide 6 feet of distance for every student. However, we are prioritizing social distancing as much as possible. Class sizes will remain the sizes that were funded. Staff and students will be, kindergarten and up, will be wearing masks at all times, unless there is an accommodation that is needed, but we are requesting that you have a documentation from your healthcare provider. Staff and students will all be provided with face masks, and additional masks will be available in the event that our students forget them or get them dirty or something happens to them. We want to make sure that safety, health, and education are at the top of our priority list. There will be floor markings in public spaces, hallways, and on our reception area to ensure that our students, families, and staff are safe. Ongoing review of our transportation is happening. When we are in an in-person model, 100% of students will be on the buses. Our operations director will be going over some logistics about transportation. However, there will be regular cleaning and sanitizing of the buses. Other safety precautions that we're considering is that we're going to limit the capacity of and restrict parents, volunteers, and external groups to be in our buildings to ensure that we are keeping our staff safe. Sanitizer stations will be ready to promote good hygiene and safety in our buildings. At the middle school level, we are going to be running a block schedule. On Monday, our A students will experience periods 1, 3, 5, and 7, and a win time at the end of the day for support and enrichment. On Tuesdays, they will be working with class periods 2, 4, and 6, along with support and enrichment at the end of the day. We believe that this model will support our students' capacity and our teachers' capacity to provide excellent instruction for our students in person and in distance learning. So when our B students are at home, they will also be working on periods 1, 3, 5, and 7. Classes will start with live teaching to get kids started, and then there will be some independent work happening for our distance learning, and there will be some time to wrap up with a live teacher. Some things that we're considering at the middle school level is that we're considering we want to enhance, and our buildings are increasing their airflow and hand sanitizing stations. Everyone will be wearing face masks. We will be able to provide 6 feet of distancing. We will be limiting some of the bus capacity. There will be deep sanitation and cleaning at our middle school. There will also be school age care for critical tier 1 workers. And when students are not in the space, we will be providing meals for our families and students. And so our operations director will share more specifically about that. As you can see here, our high school model will be a block schedule also, 1, 3, and 5 on Monday, 2, 4, and 6 on Tuesday for all of our students. You can look more specifically on the website. There is a daily schedule that has been posted for Chanhassen High School and for Chaska High School, where we are creatively working on our times and bell times to ensure that students are getting more support and more personalized learning. I want to address specifically why we decided to start in distance learning at the high school level. And we want to ensure that we are being as transparent as possible. We are committed to move, and we will move into a hybrid model on or before October 8th. We are asking for more time to prepare at this level. I want to acknowledge that at the high school level, there are a lot of logistical challenges that come along with opening up in a hybrid model. The sheer enrollment of 1,600 students and having 50% of students back into the space is a lot of students. And so we want to ensure that health and safety is at the top of our priority list. I also want to acknowledge that one of our priorities is ensuring that we have quality instruction. There are some staffing challenges at this level. I want to ensure that our credit-bearing classes that have graduation credits are secure and quality, and that we are providing excellent education at this level. We need more time to prepare our teachers and our building to ensure that we can, again, keep our priorities, safety, health, and education. We are working alongside our teachers and building administration to prepare for the hybrid model. And again, we are starting here, but are committed to move into that. We will commit to move into the hybrid model on or before October 8th. We will continue to follow this block schedule. When we move to hybrid, there will be live teaching happening. This will not be like spring distance learning. I want to acknowledge that all of us across the state were in crisis teaching. We pivoted into distance learning in just a couple of weeks. This is going to be planful, prepared teaching online that will include online teachers, live teaching, video conferencing, and synchronous and asynchronous teaching. So I want to ensure that this is not going to look like the spring. And so we want to provide quality education and instruction for our high school students. And so buying ourselves a little bit of time to make sure that we are prepared will ensure that we can deliver on these components. There will be some instructional expectations across the district. No matter what model we are in, start in, or pivot into, the platform will be on Google Classroom. This will help us remain consistent if we would have to quarantine a class, a grade level, or a school. I want to acknowledge that as we reflect on the data, it will be important that our teachers and our students may need to move within each of these models. The Google Classroom will support and provide the opportunity for our students to have consistent learning. There will be teaching that is live, video conferencing, and office hours in all of our hybrid and distance models. We believe that the in-person time will add value, and it is a priority for us to focus on delivery, lessons, and items that cannot be done at home when we have the opportunity to be in person with our students. I'm very excited about the professional development that we have been able to provide for our teachers that will be ongoing. We've had 30 professional development sessions over the last week to 2 weeks that are providing technical support for our teachers to ensure that they are able to provide quality instruction on Google Classroom. There are many questions about our online learning academy. I want to answer as many questions as possible. This is going to be an option for all of our families. As Superintendent Sales Adams shared, we have extended our deadline to August 19th at 10 a.m. I do want to encourage families that if you are sure that you want distance learning 100% of the time, please register as soon as possible. We are looking at those students and planning out staffing and scheduling as soon as possible. Again, the learning platform will be on Google Classroom. There will be live teaching and check-ins. Everything will be facilitated by a District 112 teacher. We want to commit to the culture of learning and tradition that is long-standing in Eastern Carver County. We are focusing on building community, even remotely. School will be held 5 days a week with clearly articulated student schedules that are mimicking in-person schedules. And we will have teacher-directed remote learning. There will be regular office hours. There will be online check-ins, recorded instructions, lessons, tutorials, live online instruction, and independent work. We are asking families to commit to a semester of time. This will ensure that we can provide quality instruction and ensure that you have a strong staff member that is teaching and instructing your child. We do not want to miss out on the opportunity to let you know that we are focusing on relationships, social emotional learning, and ensuring that we're building community within this model.
Hello, this is Laura Pinger-Kyle, and I'm the Director of Specialized Education Services, and would like to say a few words regarding our department and our students. We will continue to offer and provide a free, appropriate public education for our students with disabilities, and those students are referred to students on IEPs or students on Section 504 plans. Our students will receive equal access to their education as their non-disabled peers. Students on these special plans will begin the school year within the base model identified for their grade level. Any modifications to the district school model or structure of the day will be up to each individual IEP team or 504 team. The meetings will be scheduled virtually after the teachers are back to work, which is August 31st. And the meetings will be scheduled as soon as possible in order to make those accommodations. Each of the students on a IEP will have an individual COVID contingency learning plan, which we're going to be calling a CLP. And the CLP will be created that articulates what the services and accommodations will be within all three models that we may experience during the year in case the district needs to pivot between. And that is important so that our students and teams and services are able to transition smoothly between models if that occurs. 504 team members will also review each student plan to ensure that the 504 is appropriate and accommodations are provided in the model the student is learning from. Parent engagement, participation is very important to us and to our department. Parents will have the opportunity to provide consent and agree to each of the plans prior to implementation. We are holding 2 specific community engagement sessions only around the area of special education next week. And the dates are the 18th at 10:30 in the morning or Wednesday the 19th at 6:30 in the evening. And individuals can register for those community engagement sessions right from our website. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dee Dee Caring. I'm the Director of Finance and Operations, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about our building health. So first of all, as been mentioned previously, our face coverings, as mandated by the governor, will be worn by all staff and students. We will be providing some masks for staff and students, and we'll have an opportunity to have on hand some additional masks, as was mentioned earlier, for those who forget or lose masks, or maybe if the mask malfunctions. Every classroom in the district was evaluated by a third-party testing agency, excuse me, in February. The Institute of Environmental Assessment measured all classes while school was in session, with children fully occupying the rooms for relative humidity, temperature, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide levels. It's important that the testing is done while fully occupied to be able to understand the level of airflow. The amount of carbon dioxide or CO2 present in the air is a good indicator of ample fresh air. Some of our newer buildings actually use CO2 levels to control the amount of fresh air that enters a building through the building automation system. The testing completed in February indicates that the average amount of CO2 in our buildings is far less than the target of 1,200 parts per million, meaning that the airflow in our schools is very good. We will provide, as mentioned earlier, hand sanitization stations, and they will be set up throughout district buildings. We mentioned a little earlier about the cleaning process. Throughout the day, frequent touch points throughout the buildings will be sanitized. This includes door handles, handrails, light switches, elevator call buttons, toilets, sink handles, etc. On a nightly basis, each evening, classrooms, service counters, tables, chairs, and common areas will be disinfected. When there is no school in session for an entire day, we will perform a deep clean on all common areas and classrooms. We have just purchased cleaning kits that will be available for all classrooms. This kit will be made up of a carrying case, gloves, disinfectant, hand sanitizer, paper towels, and then products will be replenished as needed. Similar to what you've seen in stores and other areas, we will have signage that will be in our building, in our hallways, our restrooms, entrances to help students and staff navigate through the buildings. The district has also purchased plexiglass barriers, which will be both portable in nature and permanent. So in our entranceways with our reception areas, we will have plexiglass that will protect both the students and the staff. Onto our transportation. Routes were set up for all in-classroom scenario that would naturally reduce the passenger loads to meet the MDE guidance in the hybrid scenario without causing major changes, confusion, and disruptions. Adjusting standard procedures to control adequate passenger counts to meet the Department of Education guidance, including limiting alternative address requests, not permitting extra riders, and limiting route changes to twice monthly. Routes will be designated to operate in a transit model for each school. Drivers will run the same route every day, no matter what the hybrid group goes into school that day. Bus stops and times will remain the same, and it is understood that there may be days when there is not a rider at a bus stop. Ridership will be monitored regular, with plans to make adjustments where needed at the next scheduled route change. As far as our safety cleaning protocols for transportation, drivers will be required to wear a mask. Drivers will complete a health screening checklist each day before embarking on the route. As a requirement of the Department of Ed, the passenger seat behind the driver will remain empty to maintain approximately 6 feet between the driver and passengers during the route. Window and roof vents will be open when weather permits to increase fresh airflow. Buses will be cleaned between each run, and then buses will be cleaned at the end of the day using an electrostatic sprayer and approved chemicals. Students will be encouraged to load buses from the back to the front during the morning routes to minimize passenger contact. So we had a need to adjust bell times to earlier or later to maximize the current route fleet and driver supply. Additionally, a change in the bell times will provide extra time at schools for staggered loading and unloading procedures, additional traffic issues, and bus cleaning procedures. Students of Eastern Carver County Schools will have multiple ways to access meals this fall, depending on their grade level and learning model choice. On days when your student is learning in their school building, they will visit our kitchens and cafeterias as they have in the previous years, but with extra safety and physical distancing measures in place. So for the elementary school, going back to 4 days a week, a one-day meal kit will be provided for elementary students with the opportunity to take home this meal kit on Tuesdays to be consumed while distance learning on Wednesdays. The meal kit will contain 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, and includes student favors such as ravioli dippers, walking tacos, and homemade omelet bites. Meal kits will be charged to your student's meal account or are free of charge if your student qualifies for the free and reduced price meals. Similar to the elementary, middle school students will have the opportunity to take a 3-day meal kit home on the last day of in-person learning before their 3 days of distance learning intended to be consumed on their distant learning days. If a student is in a 5-day distance learning, we will provide a meal kit for that as well. So students will be able to pick up this 5-day meal kit from their child's school day, school building. If students choose to do a daily meal pickup, they can do so at Chaska Middle School East or Chanhassen High School on any day they are distance learning. Look for more information on our district website. Food safety and sanitization is a priority every year. However, this year, in addition to the already stringent measures, school nutrition staff have instituted some additional steps to make both staff and students safe. All staff will be wearing masks, gloves, and face shields when tasks allow during prep and service meals. Plexiglass or glass barriers are in place at all serving lines and point of sale to eliminate any exchange of droplets. Student purchases will be contactless at the point of sale. And then food items will be served single served or served to them to avoid communal serving utensils. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jackie Johnston. I'm the Director of Community Education, and one of the programs that we administer is our child care program. Due to the governor's orders, we will be providing Tier 1 child care this year or this fall at no cost on Wednesday during this current model. To qualify for Tier 1 essential workers, you must meet one of the items in this list. For more information, you can find that on our district website. We are also offering childcare for our regular childcare families who are not Tier 1. If you have enrolled in childcare already last spring, you should have received last night an email giving you directions on how to confirm your interest in our before and after school childcare program. That childcare program will run independently of our Tier 1 program. Our Tier 1 program is registration. You would have received an email today, or you can visit our website to look for our distance learning Tier 1 care option. And in registering for that, and that would be just during the school hours on Wednesdays. If space allows, you will also be given the option to enroll in before and after school on Wednesdays, but our priority will be given to our currently registered before and after school childcare families. All of our childcare programs will adhere to the governor's rules on, MDH's rules on safety, and we will use all of the procedures for hand sanitation and masking, and all of those requirements will be in place as we've done all summer. Our time frame would be that on Wednesday the 19th, our registration opens, and on Monday, the 24th of August, our registrations will be closed so that we know what our status is of children and staff, so we can put our staffing and our space in place. If we run out of staff and space, we will begin a wait list. Our early childhood programs are also going to be up and running. We will be operating out of the FLC, and our childcare programs will be preschool childcare programs will be in the spaces they currently are, such as Chanhassen Elementary. We will not make any changes to our class offerings for families who are already registered. We will follow MDH guidelines for class size and social distancing and safety in their classrooms. And we will limit parent exposure at drop-off and pickup. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tara Cliff. I'm the Health Services Supervisor for the district. Wanted to talk a little bit about health monitoring. So families will be asked to check their students for signs of illness before sending them to school and keep kids who are sick home. We're also going to educate staff and students and families about the signs and symptoms of COVID-19 and what to watch for. Any student who develops symptoms at school will be isolated and in a designated space away from other students until they can be picked up. So anybody who has a positive or suspected positive case may result in quarantining of themselves, of the classroom, of a cluster, building. It really depends on the recommendations through public health. We work very closely with public health on all of our cases and take Minnesota Department of Health guidance. We have extra cleaning protocols in place. Human resources is involved if it is related to staff. Anyone who has a positive case at home outside of the school should report that to the building nurse. And they should stay home and isolate for 10 days. Plus they should have improved symptoms and be fever-free for at least 24 hours without any medications. Household contacts will also need to stay home and watch for symptoms for 14 days. And any notifications that we have or of potential exposures, we will be sent in collaboration with our public health agency and guidance depending on the situation. So anyone who has symptoms of illness should stay home, or if they're already at school, be evaluated by the building nurse. The student would be isolated from other well students and sent home. We're recommending that they follow up with their healthcare provider. And anyone with symptoms, we are going to assume that it's COVID unless we hear of any other diagnosis. So if a student is complaining of a sore throat, for instance, and they go and see their healthcare provider and they're diagnosed with strep, then we can take that health information and just exclude based on strep guidelines, and they would be able to be returned to school faster if they have an alternate diagnosis. In the absence of any diagnosis, we are going to assume that COVID-related symptoms is COVID, and they would stay home for the entire 10 days. Again, they would have to have improved symptoms and be fever-free for at least 24 hours. Anybody who's considered a contact of somebody who's positive or has symptoms will be evaluated by the building nurse. There's lots of different scenarios that have come up, and so there are contact exposure is just going to need to be investigated a little further. But anybody who is a contact of somebody who has tested positive should stay home for 14 days to watch for symptoms from the last contact day. So if you have symptoms or are positive, you're infectious for 10 days and you need to stay home. But if you're waiting to see if you become sick because you've been exposed, then your wait time is 14 days from the last day of contact with that person. So if symptoms develop or you become test positive, then your 10 days of isolation starts at that time. So any quarantine or isolation would be determined in collaboration with our local public health and Minnesota Department of Health. Thank you.
So I want to acknowledge that and back up what Tara said and how that goes all the way down to the school level. So we may need to transition in and out of models according to the public health data and the requirement that's been put forward to us by the governor and MDE. So there again are 3 models: in person, hybrid, and distance learning. That will be determined based on data, but it could be all the way down to a classroom level, a grade level, a building level, or a district level. And so we are going to work very closely with our health services supervisor, with MDH, our Carver County Public Health Department, to ensure that we are being thoughtful and that we're taking each scenario like one at a time. Each one is going to be different. It's not just this way, then that happens. We're going to have to go with guidance from MDH through each of the scenarios that come up. But again, our priorities are health, safety, and education. We know that the numbers are changing and that balancing stability and health and safety are critically important. We will monitor health data and other concerns and reevaluate our models monthly. However, I want to acknowledge again that October 8th is our first monitoring day, but we are committed to and will be opening into a hybrid model at the high school level on or before October 8th. There are always exceptions that are necessary for us to consider in an event of positive cases with staff and parents. And we, again, will be working alongside our health service supervisor for guidance from MDH and our local Carver County Public Health. We may need to shift in and out of these models. If there is a district-wide shift, We will try to give as much notice as possible to support our families needing to make accommodations. If for some reason we were having to quarantine a group of students or a class, it could happen in a very short turnaround. However, we are committed to communicating to our families as early as possible to support accommodating and supporting our community.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Rafty. I want to thank all of our staff for all the thought and hard work that continues to take place leading up to the start of school, and our families for your patience as we also define and share more information about the way that we will start our school year. Please know that our staff remain dedicated and ready to serve. And as a reminder, like I opened up with, the registration window for our online academy has been extended to 10 a.m. on August 19th. Again, we have extended the window. We want to make sure that you have enough information to inform the decision that will be best for your family, but also to reaffirm that our high school students will fully transition to the hybrid model on or before October 8th. And we will provide an update to families with enough advance notice to prepare for transitioning to the hybrid model. As a district community, we are all invested in our children, whether you are a parent, a grandparent, a student, or a community member, whether you live in Carver or Victoria, Chaska, or Chanhassen, we all want all of our students to be successful. We know that the best place for them to grow and thrive and learn is in school, face-to-face with their teachers. We all want our students to be in school, but again, we are transitioning through these models, and I hope that you have had an opportunity to learn a little bit more of how we're going to start the school year. There's nothing more than we want as a community in order for that to happen, and we all have to work together. We need to mask up, we need to social distance where we can, and do all we can to minimize exposure so we can turn the dial toward full in-person learning. We can do it, we are stronger together, but it will take us as a team to ensure that we are doing our part to get our learners back into school. At this time, I'd like to punt it back to Kaylee so she can open up for our question and answer session. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Sales Adams, and thank you to all of our cabinet members and to Tara for providing all of that information. You will be shocked to know, I'm sure, that we have a number of questions in the chat, so I will call on various members of the cabinet to answer. We will make a copy of all of the questions in the chat. I want to reiterate that we are not going to have time to answer everyone's questions, but we will make a copy of this and reach out to people if there are very specific questions and try to update our frequently asked questions as much as we can so that we're ensuring that we get you guys the most up-to-date information to make the best decisions for your families. Tara, I'm going to ask you to pop back on camera. So data privacy is really complicated, and I know that is something that's really mostly out of our control as a school district. Who gets notified and what level of knowledge they get notified is pretty tightly controlled. Like, for instance, at the county level, when they're reporting by city, they won't even, they only report less than 10. They won't name specific numbers because it quickly becomes easy to identify a person that might be positive or suspected positive. Can you talk about the notification process? If there's a positive in a school, will all parents in that school know? I know that this answer is probably not as concrete as people would like, but can you give a sense of sort of what goes into determining who gets contacted?
Absolutely, thanks for the question. True, data privacy is utmost here, and we will take our instruction from public health on at what level that we are going to need to do any notifications. Likely, if there is a positive case in, let's say, 5th grade, and we've done an awesome job of doing our social distancing and following all of our plans and procedures, then it's highly unlikely that anybody in kindergarten, for instance, would have any exposure to that particular student. So likely only that that classroom or a few of the students around that student would need to be notified. So it really depends on the situation and the level of exposure that has occurred between the student who's positive and the rest of the school community. But no, we probably will not be sending out mass emails to all parents saying that somebody in the school has tested positive. It will be very determined. If your child is at risk, you will be notified. Other than that, we have to follow data privacy.
Sure. And I'm going to keep you there for another minute. So on a similar kind of, and I think it's unfortunately on an it depends gradient, how do we determine in terms of contact exposure, whether we have a student who is quarantining on their own, or we are perhaps quarantining a classroom? What goes into that decision-making process? To the extent that you have that information, it would be great for parents to know.
Sure. Again, it depends. There will be a thorough case investigation done through public health. It might start with some questions through the building nurse, but we definitely work in collaboration with public health to do a thorough case investigation. So level of notification and isolation and contacts and all that is going to really be a case-by-case basis depending on the situation at hand.
Perfect. Thanks, Tara. All right, I'm gonna bring Erin on deck. Erin Rathke, you're in the hot seat. One of the questions that we've heard repeatedly is for folks for whom they're not comfortable sending their kids back to school in person yet. You know, that online academy is a really good option, but they're concerned about their students learning out and the possibility to participate in extracurriculars or to participate in athletics. What are the limitations? Are the folks that enroll in the online learning academy able to access those same opportunities?
Yes, we want to be committed to our students having a holistic experience, and we know that their sports, athletics, extracurricular activities is part of that, and that's the amazing fun part, right, of being a high schooler. And I want to ensure that they get to have that opportunity, and so yes, they will be able to participate in those things even if they choose our online learning academy.
Okay, perfect. And then one of the questions is around sort of, we've committed to monitoring sort of on that every 4-week basis, right? But my understanding is that as a district, we're continuing to monitor those conditions, right? So if, for instance, we saw a dramatic change over the next 2 or 3 weeks in that data, we might have to reconsider some of our start points, correct?
Yes. Again, what Superintendent Sales Adams has put in front of her team is that we have 3 priorities: health, safety, and education. And every time we make a decision, we continue to filter through that because our teachers are important to us. We want to keep them safe. They are going to be in front of students. We want to keep our students safe, which means we keep families and our community safe. And we are focused on that. And that is also the recommendation from MDE and MDH. And we have to work within those parameters as well. And so we are watching those. We have people that are watching those every single day and every single week. And we pull together as a team to look at that to ensure that we can keep safety and health as a priority, as well as Tara Cliff is working on that. And so I really appreciate our team. And then what I also want to just share is that we have had individual small group meetings with Carver County Public Health and have asked direct questions to those experts to ensure that we are making really thoughtful decisions that are driven by data and that keep safety and health at the top of our list.
Great. I'm going to keep you there. For students who, now obviously when a child is sick, we want the family to focus on that child getting better. The priority is their health. But when an individual student, or for instance, if a classroom had to be put into quarantine for 14 days, what would their access to education be? What would that look like?
I want to acknowledge that we're all thinking about that because we might have to be in quarantine and not be sick at all, but to keep our community safe, we might be home for 14 days. And so that is why that Google Classroom platform is a key message that we keep sharing to our community. And I want to acknowledge that might feel like educational lingo, but what that is able to help us provide is students having access to some kind of instruction from our teachers. And that will include some live conferencing, that will include check-ins and being able to be virtual with the teacher. And so if students don't feel well and can't get on, it's just like any other sick day that we do. You know, kids need to take care of themselves and our families need to take care of themselves. But I also want to honor that 14 days without instruction would not be good for our kids or our families. So we're going to do everything we can to provide consistent instruction to our students, no matter what position we're all in. And this is very unprecedented. We are in a pandemic. We know that it's a health concern, but we also are in the business of providing education for kids. And so we're going to make sure that we're working really hard on providing what's best for kids and being as consistent as possible, no matter what we're facing.
Thank you. I'm gonna keep you here. I'm sorry. A lot of these questions are in your wheelhouse. What about the school calendar? This is a district where late starts tend to happen on Thursdays, and we know that in a hybrid model, we've got kids Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. How are we ensuring that kids have access to that education?
So thank you. We did work with the work group on the calendar. It is something that we want to wrestle with because the calendar is set and now we're in a different situation. And so we are exploring the opportunity of moving those late start days to a Wednesday so that it can be consistent for our families. So there are multiple things that we're considering. How do we provide consistent education between A students and B students? How do we make sure that our teachers are getting the professional development that they need so that they can be high quality instructors and that they can provide personalized learning for our students, because it does take some learning and collaborating to do that. And we also want to be in partnership with our teachers and with our building administrators. And so we are exploring those things. There will be more to come on that. What we are committed to is early communication with our families. And so you should be seeing a solid calendar coming out soon that will acknowledge A and B days for the entire year, as well as the potential of moving those late start days to Wednesdays, where it's just consistent. We understand our families have a lot of accommodations and things they have to figure out. And so we want to communicate early and as soon as possible.
So here's an acronym question for you. Can you walk through what PLC and WIN are for our parents who are listening?
This is always the obstacle of educators when we talk to people who don't have educational lingo. We like talk in acronyms and then people are like, I don't even know what that means. So PLC, so I just want to acknowledge what Wednesday is for our families is our students are going to do full distance learning. I am almost certain that the beginning of Wednesday will be live with the teacher to help our kids get up and going. We are in partnership with our teachers to ensure that they get some time also to prep for our kids. And so that's what PLC is. It's a time for us to collaborate and our teachers to do some strong planning. Because I just want to acknowledge into this space, and I want to just say to our community that teaching in a hybrid model is very different than anything our teachers have ever done, just like distance learning was for our teachers. And so we also heard loud and clear from our community that they want it to go well. And I want it to go well, and so do our teachers. That is the heart of our teachers, is that it is high quality for our kids and they don't like it to not go well. And so we just need to provide that time for them to be able to collaboratively and with some support to make sure that they have time to provide high quality instruction in that kind of a model. WIN time is our intervention time, and a time where teachers can pull in smaller groups to ensure that students that need more because they're accelerated and students that also need more to get up to speed have that opportunity to be in smaller groups with teachers. And so when, as a former principal and as a former teacher, it's really important that I'm providing extension for my high learners and scaffolds to ensure that learners that maybe are not only struggling in the subject area, but also struggling in these models, because just as much as our teachers have not provided in this model, our students have not experienced in this model as well. And so how do we provide those scaffolds and supports to ensure the success of our students?
So just to make sure I got this right, WIN is what I need, and PLC is professional learning community. All right, perfect, thanks.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you wanted me to declare what the title of those acronyms are. Education Bingo, everyone.
I'm here to help. I am the bridge between the parents and the educators. So it's sort of related to that Wednesday day, and I think I know the answer. So a lot of people are kind of wondering why Wednesday and not Monday, Friday. And when I think about the way that we've framed out sort of all of our learning models, our hybrid is Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday. So that Wednesday really is that time for deep cleaning, right? And a chance for, so that's why Wednesday maybe makes more sense than a Monday or a Friday. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, we believed in that. And so when I say a collaborative process, you know, you're asking me questions from an educational lens, and it just as much we had to collaborate alongside our director of operations, Dee Dee, to ensure that that operational perspective was in the space as well. And so we believed that Wednesday not only supported consistent instruction, but it also supported our operational needs at the building level. Because again, if we keep health and safety at the forefront of our minds, it is important that operations has the opportunity to opt in on that, because that is their lens and they're guiding us on that alongside health services.
Perfect. So I'm going to let you grab some water, and I'm going to bring Jackie up on deck to answer some club care questions. Jackie, for our families that are able or have the ability to roll their students, their elementary school students in day on Wednesday, full day daycare, excuse me, childcare, not daycare, they're in a distance learning format, right? What are we going to do to be able to support our students to continue to be in that distance learning while they are in the club care space?
So just for point of clarification, are we talking about Tier 1 students or club care students?
Well, so we know that we're going to have opportunities for folks Wednesdays, right, to register. Tier 1 for sure. Let's be clear, Tier 1 for sure, and perhaps if space is available, we may have some opportunities for others, or is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So what will that Wednesday day look like for our elementary students? And when most of us who have had kids in before and after school care know that that's really kind of an enrichment piece. It's not driven by any sort of curriculum.
Right. Well, we do have curriculum that we do use, but it is not instructional curriculum as you would think of in a traditional school day. However, just as we have been doing in the spring, we will provide a time in the morning and in the afternoon for every child who bring their Chromebook and work on their distance learning activities. If the teachers are signing in with the students at the beginning of the day, the students in childcare would also do the same thing.
Okay. And Tier 1 is really those essential workers, right, as defined in the governor's executive order.
As defined in the governor's, yes. That list is on the website if people want to look at that.
Excellent. And when will that opportunity to register be made available to those folks for that Wednesday care?
Yep. So for our regular club care families who've already enrolled, they received a letter yesterday or last night, and they will begin registration on the 19th, which is next week. And that will include the ability to register for that day. If they're a Tier 1 family, they should have received an email today if we have their name. And the registration for Tier 1 also begins on the 19th. And that information for Tier 1 families that we did not know about, they can go to our website, and the link for that will be on our website.
Okay, so they should go to the community ed website and they'll be able to figure out.
Yeah, the district website as well. Tier 1 is listed under Return to Learn.
Okay, thank you. And then in terms of locations, do we know where folks are going to be located?
So if they are in before and after school will be in their building, and Tier 1 during the school day will be in their buildings.
All right, thanks, Jackie.
Yep.
I hope you got your water, Erin, because you're back on deck. So one of the questions is my understanding that kids in grades K-2 don't have their own Chromebook, which was the case before we pivoted quickly to distance learning. Can you talk about the work we've done to create a one-to-one environment for our kids?
Yes, I'm really excited about that. So we are going to be able to provide one-to-one technology K through 12 in Eastern Carver County. And so there was a lot of belief around that and why we chose not to do that. But because we want to monitor our screen time. All of us as parents, if you're a parent and you're on here, you're thinking about that. What's too much screen time? Now they're getting screen time because of distance learning and hybrid learning, and yet they still want to be on their phone and they're playing video games. I mean, I'm in the same boat wondering about those things also. But for us to pivot in and out of these models on behalf of our students to ensure that they can have that consistent instruction, we need to provide good technology for all of our learners K through 12. So we are going to be able to provide that. More communication to come. We are working through that and all the details of that, and ensuring that our new to Eastern Carver County students as well have the opportunity to get a Chromebook. And we also have the opportunity that if there is an internet issue at home, that we can provide internet through our pucks for our students as well. And so we do not want accessibility to be the struggle. And so we're going to ensure that we put things in place to make sure that that's not happening for our students and our families.
Awesome, thank you. Well, wait, let's have a few questions about the online academy, because I know we've got a lot of questions there. Can we talk a little bit about what a day might look like? Is the expectation that kids will sort of follow that same schedule as our in-person students? Will there be, because in the spring it was kind of a log on when you can, and there was a little bit more flexibility built in there. What are we anticipating around scheduling for the Online Learning Academy?
So I want to acknowledge that in the spring, we were holding kids harmless while families and students and teachers were pivoting into something they had never experienced. That is not our commitment this year into the fall. Heard very clear from Superintendent Sales Adams that learning is not an option when we step into the fall, and that's how our teachers and all of our district staff and principals are looking at this. And so I want to let you know that there will be a structure, and it will model very closely to the in-person schedule that our students are experiencing. I also want to acknowledge that people are wondering about, will all the classes be offered? Yes, they will all be offered. They may be taught by someone who is teaching in-person students as well as online students. Our teachers are going to have to really explore what it's like to teach kids who do get to come in, and then students who choose not to come in. So we are committed to providing staffing across the district from our 112 teachers, but it will be structured. And I want to acknowledge we had some summer programming and some summer school programming that did model this, where there was more structure, consistency. Kids had to hop on, they had to check in, they were able to have some office hours, and we saw a lot more success with students who did that. So the request of our parents, we practiced this summer and we saw some really great benefits from doing it that way. So we want it to be more live, more structured, with a very clear schedule for our students.
Great. What about assessments? You know, again, in the spring, we had sort of you could choose whether you wanted to do pass fail or you wanted a letter grade. And I know that some of this is still being worked out, but my guess is that we're going to have some more regular assessment in the Online Learning Academy.
Yes, we will be doing formative and summative assessments. So those small assessments that helps our teachers know where students are at, and then those culminating tests and assessments that we do at the end of units and quarters. Those things will be happening because we should be doing them. They drive our teaching.
Great. And then Spanish immersion. And I know you said sort of is our full course catalog online, and I think a lot of people think about high school, right? Like, and some of those smaller classes, especially as you get into more specialized coursework. What about our Spanish immersion kids? Will they have the same opportunity for learning in the online academy?
We do want to provide that. I want to acknowledge that learning Spanish online is very challenging, and we have parents that are very concerned about that. However, we are going to be able to provide that in our online academy, and been working really closely with the principal, Gretchen, to ensure that we can provide that. And she has some ideas, and we have some staff that will be able to support us in that as well.
Okay, great. And then a couple of questions about sort of the registration piece, right? If people are waiting, if they're kind of waiting to sit through the elementary session or a middle school session, what are the caps on programming? Are they risking perhaps not getting their child into a class if they wait until the 19th? It's 19th, right? 19th to get their student registered for the online academy.
So I want to acknowledge this is really difficult because we're saying there's a deadline. However, I also want you to know that we're going to have enrollment all semester as needed, because number one, our commitment is to our families. And if they decide they want to try something and they have a family situation, someone does become ill, or someone has to move in, or kids are scared, whatever might happen in the continuum of how people are feeling in this pandemic, we want to give them the online option if they need it. And so what I want to acknowledge is that we potentially as a district could go into mandated distance learning. And so all of us could be distance learning. What the Online Academy ensures is that you will be online the whole semester and that you don't have to pivot in and out of models based on data. But we will take enrollment ongoing. What we are asking families is from a logistics perspective, staffing and enrollment as early as possible will help us quickly provide a schedule and get good teachers in front of our right teachers in front of the students, because we don't want a math teacher maybe teaching band, right? Because I would be bad at that. I want a good qualified teacher with licensure to ensure that they can provide that to our students. And so manipulating staffing and the logistics is a lot, and we want to make sure that we do it really well. And so early enrollment is important, but we also want families, we know we have families that are still considering and thinking through it. And like me, every day I feel differently. And so I want to make sure that families know that they can enroll at any time. We've extended a deadline to August 19th, but I'm also pulling numbers at our original deadline tonight to just see where we're at and start beginning to put our staffing together, because we want to be prepared. So it's ongoing, new extended deadline, August 19th, 10 a.m., but knowing that if you already know and you can make the decision, register now.
Perfect. That's a great answer. And so I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. So with the registration piece, some people have been confused because there's not a submit button. So if folks have gone in, if they've committed to Online Learning Academy, now they kind of want to wait to listen to one of those sessions. They don't need to go in and re-enter anything. They just need to go in and change it back to a different button, right? If in fact they decide they want to roll with the district, as it were.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Right. Trying to make everybody's life a little bit easier. You had one of the questions or concerns that I think a lot of us, especially people who have elementary kiddos, and I have one, is how, what's going to happen with the masks? We know that wearing masks all day is hard. Is that going to be a disciplinary issue? How are we going to help support our, especially our youngest learners, but really all of our learners, and understanding why it's important to keep a mask on?
I think that's a great question. And I'm thinking about that too as a mom. And I think our superintendent just did such a great job the other day sharing with our families what we need everyone to help us do. I want to acknowledge that people are wondering, is it going to be a discipline issue? It is an executive order from the governor, and we need to adhere to that. And he specifically says K-12 buildings. And so we want our students, and they need to wear masks. However, just like anything, I was a teacher for a long time. Just what do? We teach kids routines and rituals, whether it's standing in line, sharpening a pencil, how we want them to go down into the cafeteria, what we want them to do in the cafeteria. Masks are no different. We're going to have to teach, reteach, and remind our students to do it, but it is an expectation. And this is what I was a middle school principal, and what I would always say, parents would always ask me when I'd give a tour, they'd say, what should I practice with my child at home? And my, canned answer was a padlock, because there is nothing worse than a sixth grader in the hallway trying to get their padlock open because they've never experienced a padlock, and they're trying to be on time, they're trying to follow the rules, and they can't get their locker open. And so I'd always say to parents, oh my gosh, spend your time over the summer making sure they know how to skip that middle number. And I know I did that for my middle schooler, and he thanked me later. Mom, I'm so glad I knew how to do my padlock. A mask is no different. We need our families to get their arms wrapped around this with us. Start teaching your child, start talking to them about it. How do you take it on and off safely? Where can you put it when you take it off and it's time to eat? All of those things will help us, and to encourage them. The mask will be an expectation. I don't want it to be a discipline issue. I don't think it needs to be a discipline issue. I don't think our teachers want it to be either. And we're going to do what we always do. We're going to teach, reteach, and remind.
Thanks. And then just as a couple further confirmations. So our online learning academy, we're asking people to, if they commit to it, to commit through the semester. And so the pacing of that learning is the same as the in-classroom. So if they decide at this, if they decide at the semester that they're ready to come back in person, they're going to be at the same point in their learning as their in-person counterparts.
Yes, we should be able to transition at the semester level, correct.
Perfect. And so people can opt in at any time. We're just asking them once they've opted in that they are committed to that through that semester deadline.
That is correct. For scheduling purposes, we need them to stay in for the semester, but at that semester level, we'll do a re-registration and let people make another decision. If they want to change their mind, they'll be able to.
Excellent. And so some of our Facebook friends joined a little bit late. We have a little bit, another little technical snafu getting it going. So I just want to have you reconfirm really quickly. Elementary is in person, and what does that mean? What does in person mean?
I just want to acknowledge wrapping our minds around that is really challenging. Mm-hmm. In person means just like we've always done. 100% of students are coming back into the space. But I also want to acknowledge we are trying to take some safety precautions, whether it's where students are eating lunch, how we're going to teach our elementary kiddos. I was talking to an elementary principal and we were talking about how we're going to teach kids to be at arm length away when we're in line. If you've ever been in an elementary school where kids are lining up, they're all on top of each other touching, and we're going to have to teach them how to not do that, because we do want our families, because our kids are going to be coming home. We want to protect families at home. We want to protect our teachers, and we want to protect our students. So we're going to have to do some teaching that we have never had to do before. However, 100% of students are going to be in the space. They're not going to be able to social distance 100% of the time. And if you've seen the jokes on Facebook, everybody's making fun of first and kindergartners with their masks, right? Like they're going to have it on their head, they're going to have it on their elbow, and we're going to have to keep teaching them to put it back over their face, their mouth and nose. I mean, these are the things that I just want to acknowledge, these are what this is what our teachers are really good at, right? They're going to teach kids how to do that. But it's 100% in person. We're going to try to mitigate cross-contamination. There's not going to be as much traveling around in the building. We're going to bring specialists into spaces when we can. We're working on how lunch is going to look. We believe lunch is going to be in the classroom. And then also want to acknowledge that we have students that have peanut allergies, and that we're going to have to look at that individually of how we support peanut, not for
other allergies, really, right? Yeah.
Allergy-free areas, right? We're going to have to figure that, allergy safe. That's the word I need to use. Allergy safe areas to provide for our students who have those challenges as well. And I know that Laura is really helpful with that around 501, that our students are getting the accommodations they need, because there's safety issues there as well. So we're taking precautions where we can. We're going to have hand sanitizing stations. I know that Dee Dee shared we have plexiglass installed in certain places to protect our staff. And so you'll see it will look different and there will be different things happening, but it's 100% of kids in the space.
Great, thank you. Laura PK, are you out there? I'm going to let Erin breathe.
I am out here. Hello, everyone.
So specific to the Online Learning Academy, will our students who need specialized services have the same access to resources as our kids that are in the Online Academy that are more general ed?
Yes, they will still be assigned an IEP manager. That might be a different IEP manager than they would typically have during the school year, but it would be one of our certified special education teachers in the district. We will not be contracting that out. It will be all in-house, and that special education teacher will be collaborating with the general education teachers that will be working with that student to provide all the accommodations and services per their IEP. That IEP team will also meet at the beginning of the school year, just like all other teams, just to talk about how to implement and what type of amendments need to be made on that IEP.
Can you talk about, this is an anxiety-inducing time. The spring was scary for a lot of our kids, a lot of our families. They were out of their normal routine, and even coming back this fall, we know for a lot of our families, they're not going to be back in a normal routine. What mental health supports do we have to support our families and our learners as they adjust to this new normal?
That's a great question, and I do acknowledge that it is a very difficult time, and our students need support. We do have a continuum of mental health services available in the district. We have our social workers or counselors at the elementary level, and then students who receive special education services, we have a separate set of resources available there. But then for all students, we have a partnership with Carver County Social Services and Relate to provide co-located mental health services to all or any student who requires that service within the school setting. And they are also partnering with us right now to figure out ways to provide that through teletherapy for students who are either in a hybrid or distance learning model. But they are also planning on being in the schools at the elementary at this point to provide face-to-face intervention.
Thank you so much, Laura.
You're welcome.
Dee Dee, are you out there still?
I am, sorry, had to get the right button. My mouse was in the
Navigating technology, it doesn't seem to get any easier the more you use it. I will say that for sure.
Yeah.
The question about the plexiglass, we talked about how we're going to have some of that available. Can you tell where that's going to be used or it's not going to be used? For instance, we've seen on social media some of those plexiglass on desk tables in classrooms, and that's not what we're anticipating in our schools, is it?
No, that's not. We've got about 223 barriers that we've already purchased. And so, as I mentioned, they will be at all the reception desks in all the buildings. They'll be at the media center at that, I forget what the checkout area is. They'll be there. They'll be at our point of sales for all of our school nutrition. We'll also have some portable ones that might be on a stand that can be moved around, which would offer opportunities for teachers and or students so that there could be a protective barrier, especially in a case where a student might need to be able to have facial recognition with the teacher or sign language, and that is part of what they need to do. So those barriers will be in place. They're just like you've seen when you've gone to any store or other business where they've put up the plexiglass to protect not only the students, but then the staff as well.
Thanks, Dee Dee. All right, I'm just going to put Superintendent Sales Adams and Assistant Superintendent Rathke on notice that you're on deck. I have a couple questions. I don't usually get to answer the questions, but there were a couple of fun ones that came in here that I actually know the answers to. So we had a question about school pictures. Yep, we're going to have school pictures. You can look forward to more information from your school buildings and your principals around that. So grandma and grandpa don't need to be put on notice. They will have pictures of their kiddos to prominently display. And then my favorite question maybe of the session is where can we get those fun Hawks and Storm face masks? Well, I can tell you that the boosters are hard at work. My guess is that those will be available in the school stores. But if you happen to have a kiddo you happen to have a contact to the booster clubs at those two buildings, you may want to put a bug in their ear about getting those available to folks earlier. So with that, Erin, I'm going to ask you to come back on deck and any closing remarks you have for folks to encourage them as they make this decision for their families.
I just want to say I have a hawk mask. I haven't gotten my storm mask yet, so I got it. They're cute. You know, I just want to thank everybody for being alongside us in this work. It's been very challenging, and it is not school as usual for our teachers or for our students or for our families. And I just want to acknowledge that it's been very, very stressful and very hard. And I also want to just say that we have a great community. I am so excited about being in Eastern Carver County. I have felt so supported by our families. We have excellent teachers, and and great principals. And so I'm so excited to work alongside them in this challenging time. No better place to be than Eastern Carver County right now, and working through these times together. And my big joke at home is I'm going to say something like, remember when I did this? That was really something I never imagined I'd have to figure out. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to be in partnership with this community. And so we will get it done.
Great, thanks, Erin. Superintendent Sales Adams, any last words for those who are watching?
Yes, I want to thank you for your patience, but also for tuning in. And I understand that we're being streamed on Facebook, so I hope that we're reaching a broader audience. And as Aaron shared, educators across the country, we are doing something that has never been done before. So I know some people are saying, why does it take school systems more time to plan in a hybrid model? It's a new format, it's a new model, and it's something that we're asking teachers to do differently. And they are working really hard to get prepared for your students. And I know that we're gonna have a good model for our students, but also keeping our students safe. As Aaron said, Assistant Superintendent Rafty, I have been warmly welcomed to our community, have been reaching out and meeting a lot of people. And I am excited for this school year. This is a challenging school year to start as superintendent, but I will tell you that I'm getting a lot of good experience in navigating and finding out what we need to do to get you the information that you need to be well informed. Please continue to reach out to us. Share your questions, provide feedback, ask for clarifications. That is our job. We want to make sure that we get you what you need as quick as you need it. We do ask you for some grace and some time as we continue to work things out. We will bring our students back. We are committed to making sure that our teachers have what they need, our students have what they need, and that you feel like you are starting the school year off in this new format, but feeling that you have the information that you need. If not, reach out to us. We have some information sessions next week that are going to be by grade level. So if you have particular questions for your elementary student, your middle school student, or your high school student, please jump on. If you miss those, that information will be provided on our website. We want to make sure that we are offering consistent communication that's transparent and that we are in partnership together. Be on the lookout for some information from us on how to work with your student about just the precautions of coming back to school. So whether it's hand washing, for sure wearing the mask, the importance of it. We do want to engage some of our students in getting their feedback because we do know that school is their experience and we are wanting to make sure that it is a good experience for them. I can't thank you enough for tuning in, and I look forward to meeting you and meeting your students in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Just as a reminder, I want to acknowledge that we did not get to all of the questions. We will be logging all of those questions and working through them. If you have specific questions, I really do encourage you to reach out to your building leadership. They can also be a resource to help get your questions answered. But we will be looking at all of those questions, continuing to update the frequently asked questions section on our website, and where we can, reaching out and answering questions individually. So please continue to send your questions in to 112feedback@district112.org. We are working through those emails as fast as we can and to try to get you all the information that you need. Again, we have elementary, middle school, high school, and specialized services info sessions next week. Like this session, we will be recording and sharing that as soon as possible after we're done. And also sharing it to Facebook, although that in true form also has some hiccups of its own, but we pivoted and figured out a way to get it online. So I thank you all for your patience. I thank you all for your participation. I hope you all stay healthy and stay safe and have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.